Hello, hello. For those who are joining in, I'm not too sure how many we have, but we're gonna get started here. For those who are actually here, obviously we're not gonna be going into too much stuff. Just fixing some stuff. All right, cool. So I'm gonna be paying attention more or less to the comment section on the side, and I'll try to answer some things um, for all of you that came in. Thanks for showing up. Obviously, first AMA, so don't want to give too many things away. Want to keep it, pretty on the down low for those who haven't joined the group. But generally speaking, I'm gonna go over a couple of talking points and pretty much nailed down some of the intentions of the group, what's going to be happening for the rest of the course, in terms of the rest of the different courses and materials that I have on the side, and go over some of your comments or questions or concerns you guys may have. So to keep up with to prelude to the next part, so a couple of announcements to start off with. The first one is that there'll be new sections being added to the narrative design masterclass course. This is something that a lot of people have been asking for on the side, and I'm going to be adding some really interesting things for you guys to check out. So what does this mean? What are the new sections? Well, there's going to be two new sections. One of them is going to be on the hero's journey, which basically really is the narrative element of games, that explain more or less how a player goes, from one area to the next, but really bringing down into the plot theory. So really exploring, the ups and downs of players, all the way from the beginning all the way to the end to the climax. So we want to do that. We want to explain more or less that, because every story has some sort of general journey that will be explored by the players, even if they're side quests besides that. So we want to explore that. And on the flip side, on another section, is going to be really breaking down the 3-act structure. So showcasing how you could do a treatment for your stories as well. I think that's something that's missing in the course. Something that will at least add some real depth to understanding how to explore that narrative element of game design. For narratively speaking. So that's really cool that we're going to be adding that. This is stuff that you could easily find, but I'm going to try to grab a lot of stuff, a lot of main principles or things that I've seen at Ubisoft, and try to bring that into what we want to do there. So that's the first announcement. The second announcement is that for the level design course, we're going to be adding a 2D/isometric section to the course. So what I mean by that is I'm going to be it's a large task, but we're going to be showcasing how to design for 2D maps from level design perspective, because a lot of the course is in 3D. A lot of the times, you're creating a game that's going to be more or less in 3D. So I wanted to do a 2D side of that thing, so more like tile maps, or explaining to you how to do tile maps in the course. So that whole, it's going to be a large section, because we're going to come up with our concept, do our map section, and then obviously do it in Unreal and in Unity. So that's going to be something that we're going to be doing as well in that. So that's for that. A side note is that I am also currently working on a new course, completely brand new course, which is going to cover rational design. So the course is basically going to be a game design, rational design masterclass. So what is rational design? Well, really, it's just the comprehension of rational thinking behind design decisions. So example, some things that I wrote down to give you guys an idea. It's how to adopt rational design to create innovative games. How to learn the different design principles and terminology used across the industry when it comes to rationally thinking about how to let's say improve the concept, or how to bring forth really deep understanding of engagement and retention, or understanding how player decisions are done. So that's another thing as well. And obviously how to bring ideas together in terms of game design, and really push forward from, let's say, a proof of concept to let's say a creative brief, to documentation, to MVP, and then to post production, and then going live. So really all the different steps we want to cover in that course. So that's pretty much it for that. And finally, the last part was the consultations that I've opening up. We've had some great. I had already we started off today. It was a kickoff, so I've already had some really great talks with a couple of people already. And and I'm not going to discuss whether or not they enjoyed it or not. I'll let them freely give their feedback however they want. But generally speaking, I think it went well. I had a really great time discussing with the different corners of the world and understanding how game design principles work. I've had people from different groups message me about how they could get into the industry, or what to critique some of their game design documents. So it was a great experience overall. And like I said, guys, these 30-minute consultations are completely free. They don't cost you anything. All it's going to cost you is your time to sit down and listen to me talk. That's pretty much it. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the announcements. And I'm going to kick off the Q&A, or the AMA. So I'm gonna let you guys pretty much ask any questions, and I have the chat open so I could pretty much see what you guys are asking. So yeah, from Daniel, yeah, it's gonna be cool for the narrative part. I'm excited for that. Dean, isn't it really Unreal difficult to work at 2D? It is. It got better. It got better. Unity, generally speaking, is the go-to for tile mapping. It's just easily to create 2D maps with Unity, but Unreal, they've gotten a bit better. So it's not as difficult. I have some experience in one of the companies I used to work for. We were creating a 2D side scroller in Unreal Engine, so that's fine. I mean, at the end of the day, it really helps for blueprints, because with blueprints, at least the concept won't be too difficult to come to light, versus, let's say, Unity, where you have to use. I mean, you could use 3D scripting now because they have that, but either or program or engine was perfectly fine. So just to give you guys, so I'm gonna let you guys ask me any question you want. I'll try to answer them as honestly as possible. So more or less, you can ask me any question on how I got into the industry, what's it like working at Ubisoft. If you have any specific questions, even if you guys want to ask me, what's my routine or whatever it is, how's my day to day. I'm here to pretty much answer any questions you guys may have. Feel free to just poke away with anything you guys want. One of the things that I find is very interesting, though, when working in AAA, is that there is a bit of a disconnect between designers and our team, when in terms of really trying to nail down exactly how we want to showcase, let's say, a specific gameplay ingredient versus what's the technology allowing us to do, right? So that, I think, is one of the most important things that I've seen happen a lot, and it's a bit difficult to do. So we try to obviously regulate those kind of things. Dean asks, what kind of games did you work on? So for Ubisoft, I can't get into the game right now that I'm working on because I'm locked, unfortunately, under NDA. But it's an interesting game. It's going to be something that's pretty cool. I'm excited to do it. The other games I've worked on during my time was with a simulator. So we basically we created a simulation game for, let's say, a 3D town, like a SimCity builder, something like that, but with more agency to the players. So we really tried to develop something that players felt they had to come back to a lot, because the city would, let's say, after X amount of time, city would lose power, or to construct stuff, players would have to go out and farm stuff. So we had a lot of mini games inside of the simulation game. So really trying to create that whole ecosystem of different types of games. So that was a simulator. Unfortunately, it didn't pan out as well as we thought it would. So then we worked on a 2D side scroller, basically where it was like an on the rails type of game where a player would control a kraken, and the kraken would swim through rocks and collect coins. So it was a lot of just shifting your thumb a lot, swimming under, destroying boats. So that was the game. It was, when I left the company, it was in development. It was close to finished. I'm not sure if it's finished exactly, but so more or less, my range has been 3D simulations to side scrollers to now making a game that's gonna be for game as a platform, as is pretty much what all the games are. But really focusing on the live aspect of the game is important. So yeah, so that's pretty much the games I'm currently working on. Economy wise, it's a bit tough, because obviously these types of games are never easy. So it's always interesting to see how to properly balance these types of systems in a game. To actually answer, actually, if you got while away from the questions, I'll actually answer a question that I had this morning from one on ones. Was, as an economy designer, how do you balance, let's say, play to earn um, and let's say a free to play game? And so, play to earn, generally speaking, they are games that require, their governance, or how tokens, or like how currency is transactions between players, is generally speaking um, totally under the player's scope. Even at that, there's outside sources that can affect market price, because obviously it's like an investment. So generally speaking, how do you control that as the economy designer? You try to control the supply of the currency to try to keep it at a demand point where if you sell items, that's pretty much your target market price. Controlling the supply is really what it takes. So it's basically it's economy 101 versus, let's say, free to play games, where the general rule of thumb for free to play games is you want to control more or less how players interact with certain systems. At the same time, try to design the systems so that we create funnels for players to spend currency. More or less, that's how it goes. An example of this would be, let's say, this is the same example I'm going to give. Was, let's say, as a player, you're leveling up, and let's say you unlock, let's say, PvP at level 5, right? So you're in a free to play game, you unlock PvP at level 5. You have energy, so when you complete a level, you have energy, and with that energy, you're able to create your own stuff. So after, let's say, X amount of time, you have, let's say, after you spend all the energy, you realize that you're at level 4, and let's say 75% of the way, which you're out of energy. So now you gotta wait, let's say, 5 hours. We create those. That's done on purpose. We want players to get stuck at a focal point in the game where they're brought up with a situation of, do I spend money to purchase another extra energy to play the level, to beat it, to unlock PvP, or do I wait the 5 hours? So those are done on purpose. So, like I said, free to play, it's more on designing the game and the balancing on specific numbers, versus play to earn, which is more trying to balance the supply of things. Aaron asks, what is your experience in getting into a AAA company? So it was really interesting. I think this is a question that a lot of people they kind of give very I want to say the answers are never truthful, because more often than not, people say it's easy, or they say it's difficult, but then it's never really the explanation that allows you to grow as an individual. So for me, I started off working for free right out of school, because I went to a one year game design intensive, and then out of that, I worked for 2 years, 2.5 years for free, completely free out of my time, for a AAA, indie company. And through that time, I was able to hone my skills. But throughout that time, I think I applied for, or tried to get into, at least, I would say, 25 easily. I applied for 25 different companies or positions until I got into Ubisoft. And each one of those positions, there was many stages to go through. So the first stage, generally speaking, is you send your CV. They give you an answer. If they give you an answer, that means that they're interested in conversation. So once you get the conversation, you have an interview with a couple of people, then the screening, then they give you, let's say, a design test. Now, these aptitude tests, they can be a bit tricky, because they might ask questions that are the questions that they do ask are actually harder than the position requirements, much harder. The reason why this is that they're trying to weed out people, and they try to see if you have a good understanding of critical thinking. So generally speaking, these aptitude tests that's what they're trying to test, is you're able to understand the concept and able to really spin it into what they want to see. So what I do is, whenever, let's say, I apply to, let's say, a mobile company, and they give me a design question, I try to see, how does this affect the mobile industry, or what does it affect? So most of the time, my questions would be around retention, engagement, virality, monetization. Those are generally what the KPIs they want to see. There's a AAA company where they're going to ask you games, and really it's on creating a journey for the player, or creating a engaging feeling, because they're premium games and they have a finish. So that's pretty much overall the experience that you see. It's never easy. I was talking this morning. There was a company in Sweden that I was doing a process for, and I think I had like 7 steps. of interviews and tests and questions and references to get in, and then the pandemic happened, then I didn't get the job. Versus, let's say when I got into Ubisoft, it was one interview, and then a week later they sent me an offer. So go figure. It's very interesting, the difference between roles. For me, I think it's important that even if, let's say, you apply, you do your test, they give you a test and you fail it, is never to take that as defeat, because that's actually amazing. For me personally, I've watched all my tests. I've tried to obviously try to get this best I can with them. Use them as practice tests, because it allows you to answer the questions better, and always ask for follow-ups, obviously. I hope that answered your question, Aaron. Next question. How many games would you say you've been on from start to finish overall? I would say not that are published. I would say 0, unfortunately. Hopefully the one at Ubisoft is the one that we're going to be able to actually be able to stick throughout the whole way. Games that I've done on the side for fun, I would say 3. Just the ones I've done. But more or less, I've pretty much seen the entire cycle, because I've gotten in different points of production, that I've seen the different stages of how it goes from, let's say, prototype to pre-prod to prod. Because our game currently is close to prod, so we're really ramping up, sorry, to get this done. But honestly, it's once you hit production, it's more or less smooth sailing, because it's just hammering out all of the things that are inside the design documents. So it's much easier to do that. Hope that answered your question, Jeremy. Dean asks, what kind of salary I expect going into game design? Okay, well, it really depends on the it depends on where you are. Ubisoft generally, the salary I got was decently compensated versus, let's say, others. But more or less, gaming companies, they're gonna offer you, at least in Canada, the average starting is about 50 to 60, depending where. Vancouver is more. Vancouver is 60 starting. But think of it as, honestly, it's a graduate degree. So think of it as, let's say, a 55. I don't know what that is in Europe. I would say it's maybe a 45, I think, or 40. But more or less, that's kind of the range that they're gonna offer you. If you have experience in the industry, it's usually more. But I think there's a real shift now I'm seeing in the industry overall, as obviously, as for North America specifically, inflation is going through the roof, so they're gonna have to kind of upstart some of their salary breaking points. So that's usually going up. Any other questions you guys may have? I could give you guys a little anecdote at work. One thing that we've noticed a lot, especially in the gaming community, is that there's a big rift between the whole NFT market and the traditional game devs, which is really interesting to me, because as an economy designer, I'm trying to be partisan. I try to not have an opinion as much as possible. I try to look at the fundamentals and try to understand how economically one of them works from one side to the other. So it's really cool to see the back and forth between the different groups that are evangelists, and the ones that are trying to crucify this to the wall. So it's really something that's crazy to see. So I work, I have a lot of discussions with some people regarding the subject. I think and these discussions are basically on the lines of, what do you think about this? Does this make sense to you? How do you view the future of the market going forward? So I think it's crazy to see how the gaming community will be developing in the next 4 or 5 years, as metaverse is starting to really explode in the next couple of months, because I know a lot of games are coming out that are revolving around that, and even further along the line. Another question, Dean asked, there's been a lot of bad news around game dev companies and work culture. What's your thoughts on that? Have you seen any or much shift in the past years? I think, working at Ubisoft, when I got hired, there was a lot of people that a lot of the allegations were coming out, and they fired a lot of the main people in that, which obviously it's completely understandable. Things like that are definitely not something that should be tolerated at all. Um, I haven't seen any, and I don't think there's a place for it either. End of the day, for me, I think the most important thing when working on games is that we have to uh, appreciate everyone's culture and background, and also respect everyone as individual, regardless of their gender or sex or whatever background they believe in. Personally, I think as long as people do the job and they're able to do it well, that's the most important thing. At the end of the day, we are working for companies. They are corporations, and they have mandates. But I think I have seen a shift, at least at Ubisoft, that they're being more inclusive, that they are putting in places really important traps to not make anyone who has felt this type of hate or this type of negative impact fall through the cracks. That this is being taken as a serious issue, and it should be. If you look at Blizzard, for example, um, I mean, the whole situation over there has been a complete disaster from start to finish from a HR perspective, a general PR nightmare, which I think led to the act that led to Microsoft actually buying out Blizzard. It was because of that, because of all the negative PR that happened there. Financially, their stock price fell, and it fell to a point where they were in takeover territory from a fiscal perspective. So that's what allowed Microsoft to take over. So actually, generally speaking, hopefully no other company goes through or does actually apprehend individuals that do promote or do perform these type of actions in a way so that you can create a much more safer environment. Because obviously, I mean, look, to be Blizzard right now is I mean, now Blizzard's going in a better direction, but to be part of Blizzard during that time must have not been easy at all. So I think a lot of the devs that I know we're very supportive of each other. We None of us tolerate any type of this type of attitude in the workplace. I haven't seen any. Then again, I don't think I think I'm not in a place to see it, or I'm not in a place that will understand fully the perspective of these individuals, due to the fact that, I mean, look, I'm gonna call it like it is. I'm white, so it does, obviously, for me. Just naturally, I'm gonna have a higher. I have an easier time, just because I'm not part of a minority. So I think it's important that minorities obviously are the first ones to be heard, and it's one thing that it's a bit insane to see them not being treated as such. But I have never felt through it, and because of that, I think I have to really stand up for them, at least from any perspective that if I ever see or catch someone doing that. But then again, I haven't seen anything at all at Ubisoft. It's been, honestly, everyone I work with, it's been just fantastic. So yeah, so that's for that. I hope that answered the question, Dean, because I went off a bit off the rails there, but more or less that's kind of what I'm seeing at work. They do put good incentives, though, for learning of different cultures, though, as well, which I think is really important. At least from a cultural appreciation perspective. So yeah. Yeah, you could ask. Yeah, Dean, if you want, just you could ask questions. I mean, look, we're a couple of people in this chat. Obviously, it's the first one, so I don't expect it to be 150 people. But yeah, you could keep asking as many as you want. Do I ever thought about going indie? Yeah, I don't mind. I think it's indie is good. I like indie because I guess indie really depends on the type of person you are, or the type of designer you are. And what I mean by that is, if you're versatile, you have a good understanding of the general process. You could put on the different hats, right? So, example, like me, I could be an economy designer one day when I'm balancing, let's say, HP systems, or balancing enemy damage, or have balancing status effects, whatever it is. And the next day I'm doing systems design. Oh, okay, I'm creating a score system that's gonna have monetization implementation or implications. So indie allows you to have that freedom to really be creative, but to do indie, I believe you have to be very well structured. And what I mean by that is your documentation and how you conduct your business between one department and the next has to be very fluid, and has to be like a vertical slice of what you're trying to explain. Because um, if you're not able to dictate efficiently what you're trying to showcase, and you keep it very brief, it kind of, in a small team specifically, it can lose context and can be misinterpreted. That's the one thing I noticed in AAA specifically, is that we'll have a meeting, we'll sit down, we'll talk about a topic, we'll all agree on it, and then the week after, someone who was supposed to read the document didn't read the document, come back, ask questions, and you're like, man, like what happened here? Like, you're supposed to read the document, and now you're arguing about this topic. Versus indie, where it's like, you're with these people every day, you talk about and they understand completely what's going on. So AAA, things could get lost in the noise, and things could resurface a lot more, and challenged a lot more, versus indie, where it's much easier. Yeah, I mean, I could give you an example. I give you a good antidote, actually, of I won't say what the system is. I won't mention anybody specifically, but I'll mention that I was working on a feature, and the feature got validated and it got approved. So usually what that means is that when it gets approved, like, this is the final, like you have to make your piece, and that's it. Like, now we're pushing forward, unless the creative director decides, okay, we're going to change direction and we're going to go in this way, and then you have to go back and redo your work. But until then, whatever is done is going to be going in that direction. So what that means is that whatever I did is good. And so I was on vacation, and throughout my vacation, I was getting messages asking, why is this being represented this way? Is there purpose? I don't find that the purpose of this being done is good. And so I'm on vacation, so I couldn't answer specifically the question, but I found that it was interesting that this was being brought up after a validation. So then I came back, and I messaged the person individual, and I explained to them the reasoning behind this feature and why it was being showcased in this manner. And they said, "Cool, thanks." I told them, "Listen, I'll get back to my general manager, and we'll discuss it, and I'll bring up your point, and we'll discuss it, and we'll choose direction." So keeping in mind that I'm the game designer behind the feature, which I have, in theory, I have more or less the authority to dictate the direction it is based on the position of the other individual. So during a meeting that I wasn't there, because I was still on vacation, the individual went and raised the same questions that he did to me, to other people in the other directions, and they sided with me, thank God. But those are things that I've seen in industries, that if someone has an opinion on something and they really dislike it, even if they don't have any control over it, and they bring it up to you and you disagree with their comment, they'll most likely go behind your back sometimes, and trying to define the process and ask other people to try to change it, which is completely, like, not right. So I've seen that before in AAA, versus indie, where indie, that won't happen, because you're all in the same bloody room. Like, they're not going to go behind your back, because when you talk about one subject, like, everybody else hears the subject. So that's the difference there. So what is the best way for someone who has another career to get into the game industry? Great question. This is a good question. This is the biggest question I get asked a lot. Like, how do you break into the industry? So for me, I would say it's really, the first thing that you have to do is you have to figure out what you enjoy doing. Above all, what I mean by that is, which design philosophy or which doctrine do you have a strong feeling towards? This could be economy, this could be narrative, this could be generalized game design, this could be 3Cs, this could be systems, this could be progression. So these are all different subcategories of design. So that's the first step, is figure out what you like doing the most. Once you've nailed that, and you say, okay, I like this type of design, for me it was economy, then the next step for me was to understand, okay, so I like economy. What is this? Like, it's numbers. What does that mean, though? What are the tools? So the first thing after that is, what are the tools that they use? So for me, example, it was Excel, Python, Tableau, and SQL. or JSON too, whatever. But those are the main tools that are part of economy design that you should know as an economy designer. So I said, okay, let me go learn those. So that's what I did. I went to go learn Excel, going after a Microsoft Office certificate, understanding Tableau, how it works. So once you understand the tools, at the same time, also reading about general philosophies around that specific subject. So again, economy design, what does that really mean? So it's like balancing stuff, right? So I read free-to-play books. One of them was Free Me Economics. I read books on general behavior of enemies or like general interactions between player and enemies to get a better understanding of what the look and feel should be. So that obviously, if let's say I throw a sword with a big heavy sword, it's gonna be more damage. That's more or less it. So try to understand that. So read the books and do deconstructions as well. So what I mean by that is take a game you enjoy doing, right? So research it, go online, you understand the game, you say, okay, these are the game, this is what it does, these are mechanics of the game, and then deconstruct it a bit. So you ask yourself, okay, for like economy, so how much currency do players get from killing this? So what are the taps? Where do they spend it? Where are the sinks? So as a designer, you start understanding the philosophy of how the designers came up and created that game to what it is today. Because if you're able to deconstruct a game from start to finish and understand what happened, that gives you stronger incentive to obviously pivot from one career to the next. So, and then obviously it's to create your own portfolio as well, as much as you can, and then obviously apply. So to summarize really quickly, because this is a big question, it's figure out what you enjoy doing, understand the tools that are part of that group, read books or from famous authors or from famous designers or whatever it is that have written about it, deconstruct or research games appropriately to your thing, and create very short. You don't even have to create a game, an actual functional game, just documentation of the thing that you like, or come up with an idea. And then obviously a portfolio and all that other stuff is more as a bit later on, but once you have that, you already have that would I say would be like that's like your nutshell, or that's like terrible excuse, not a nutshell. That's like your I don't know, the embryo, perfect, of your game design philosophy, and then you could hatch and grow later on. But that's basically the core of what it is. I hope that answered your question, Marina. So Dean asks, are the tools used at AAA developers very difficult from the tools for consumers? No. Like for example, I use Excel, I use PowerPoint, I use Word, Confluence, Jira's. This is all stuff that you could easily find. Even the tools that I did mention before, Tableau, SQL, these are all things that could easily be picked up by anybody. For us at Ubisoft, what we use, like the engines that are created, so the custom engine that are done, that we do create and that we do use, they're gonna be different, and nobody gets them. Trust me, I have no idea. Like I'm not a programmer, right? Like my job is to just come into work and be like, hey, all right, I need to do this. I need to make this do this. Could you do that? Example, I need to, let's say, change values in the game, but I want to have an Excel spreadsheet that I change a value in Excel and it automatically syncs up with the game and it just pushes the information. The programmers say, oh, okay, we'll do that. And then they create the tool for it. And then you say, oh, okay. Then they give you obviously a booklet. They have like a page on Confluence and you just read it and you're like, okay, this is how it works. So there are some tools that are used, but they're only specific to the project, because generally you can't. They're not going to use tools, like custom tools in a project into another project, unless they're very similar projects, like sequels or stuff like that. Assassin's Creed, the tools used in Assassin's Creed won't be used for like forgot the game. The South Park mobile game won't be the same engine at all. Completely different engines. So they're very specific to the genre, or at least to the game that they're making. Yeah. So that's pretty much it. Any other questions? Because I find it interesting, because it honestly, for me, when I was learning, let's say Excel from the base, it wasn't as hard as I expected it to be. But on the flip side, seeing how it's used at work is interesting as well, because um, a tool that I assume is used by everybody isn't used. Like out of my team, who uses Excel out of my team? I think we're a team of, let's say, 100 and 150. Me, I think that's it. No, can't be it. I think we're like 6 that are very in tuned to Excel. In terms of, let's say, creating algorithms. A lot of the project managers are know Excel only because it's good um, for allocating or creating aggregates of different groups and then being able to see them much more easily in a flow. But obviously, for design purposes, I don't think there's many people that do it, which is a bit sad there because it's such a great tool. But yeah, so that's pretty much it. So yeah, I mean, if there's no more comments or questions, I guess I'll finish up this AMA here. I recorded the AMA, so, and it will be posted on in the group as well. Oh, okay. I'm just gonna finish up. We have one question from Aaron really quickly. I've noticed a lot of level design job require modeling. Do you know what level I would need to be at? Okay. Good question. Modeling, man, we don't do it. They don't do any modeling at work. That's what's crazy. Yeah, there's no real modeling. Um, I guess 3ds Max, at least if you're able to create models at the base, I think it's fine. But level design, it's weird because I don't think I've seen, like, my level designers don't really model anything. They use assets created by the art team or the modelers, the actual modelers, and they implement them into the game. Um, so I'd be really curious, Aaron, if you could just copy what you see there in your job description, and we'll take a look at it together, because I'm really curious to see what exactly the job description specifically says, because then that'll allow me to have a better understanding of what it is. Because I don't think I've ever seen that. Yeah, I would say is exactly what Jeremy says. It's more like blockhouse, so gray leveling, so gray boxing. That's actually what it is. If they ask for that, it's probably gray boxes, because I don't think it's actually actual 3D visualized, like production visualized assets. It's more like gray boxing. So gray boxing generally, I mean, that's just like putting blocks in an engine, similar to, let's say, the level design course that I have, where you gray block, you put block outs more or less of what your intentions are at the base level. So let's say you, and that's really easy to do. It's not too difficult. That's the level. That's actually the max I think level designers should know for modeling. But even at that, it's just boxes. So it's nothing too crazy. It's just, obviously, when you create your levels, you have to say, okay, the level's going to go like this as this. You start boxing out, using, let's say, if it's Unreal, you use, let's say, the geometry brushes, or if, let's say, it's Unity, you use Pro Builder, and you just kind of pro build your assets, or pro build basically how it's going to look. You keep in mind, obviously, the lines, the observation parameters, keeping in mind, how you want to guide the player through it. I think that's more or less what the intentions are. But to be honest, like, I don't think, well, at least the project I'm working on, like, we don't really have any real level design principles in it. It's maybe because it's linear, I don't know. But generally speaking, the level designers, their job really is focusing on creating good map stories, or creating good stories of using the different ingredients. That I think is the biggest thing, is how to really mix and match different ingredients to create engaging stories and make it, or engaging story like narratively and obviously gameplay wise. Create good gameplay situations and try to see how you could tweak it by mixing ingredients. But to answer your question, I think it's just blockouts. Like I don't think they will ask you for anything more than that. I hope that answers the question. If we want, we could definitely take a look at it more. I have, for me, it can't be more than that, personally. So, if that's it, for the rest of the time, we have 20 minutes left. So So Marina asks, I'm an architect and I'm currently doing a level design course. Does the final project of the course can be part of my portfolio? What else can it be put if I apply to a level design job with no experience in the game industry? Yeah, I mean, uh, the final few parts of the course is really taking, and I have to say it's a bit shoddy. It's not my best work, but generally speaking, it's taking what we designed as the principles in the different sections and creating a 3D version of it with the player character at the base. Obviously, whatever map you guys created or whatever thing you guys want to do, the last section is really just showing how I did it. From the base, but you guys could do it any way you want. You guys could really expand it more. You could play around with the heights. Like I used it very to the T in terms of using the blockage that I used, but you could do it any way you want. For me, like obviously level designers, when it comes to gray boxing versus the final product, you're obviously gonna have a bit of differentiation in terms of what it's gonna look like. So but yes, it could be used for your portfolio. 100%. I mean, I don't see an issue with reusing stuff that you've done. Even if it's what a lot of people have, I have no problem with that at all. It's completely fine. There's no issues with that at all. So in terms of applying for level design jobs with no experience, the main thing that I've seen a lot is yes, they're gonna check your work. They're gonna look at what you did, but they also want to see your documentation as well. And documentation is massive. So I'm gonna actually link in the chat one of the students that actually did some great work in terms of documentation. I don't have it here with me, but I'm gonna post it after. And they took the course as well, but what they did is they did a great job at identifying how to properly showcase gray boxing, what Aaron was talking about, the modeling, gray boxing from start to finish, and showcasing all the information regarding that. So I'm going to grab that in a bit, and I'm going to post it in here right after. But yeah, you could use as part of your portfolio. It's not an issue. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Unless you guys have any other questions, I'll give everybody a couple of seconds. I know we're only 4 in here, which is completely fine. I'll give you guys a couple of seconds to ask me any questions on the subject. And if not, look, we're going to be hosting a bunch of more AMAs later on. Obviously, we have a very small amount of people in the community, which we're hopefully going to grow. The main goal here, obviously, the community is just to share knowledge, for me to answer questions, to do some mentoring if possible. That's the whole goal. Share my knowledge with you guys because I feel like there's not enough representation of, let's say, AAA devs helping aspiring game designers in the community. If there is, I mean, I haven't seen any. Probably there is, probably a bunch of them, and I'm just some wacky guy who's doing it for fun. But that's the goal here, is just to help. Yeah, so that's it. So that's pretty much it for the AMA, I guess. If you guys want, like I said, you could check out the Calendly, book a time, book a 30-minute slot with me. We'll go over some stuff. More than happy to take a look at things. And yeah, I'm gonna post the level design Marina. I'll post the site for the student that did some great work. And yeah, with that, everybody, I want to wish you all a happy Sunday wherever you are. Thanks for showing up. I really appreciate it a lot. And hopefully this will be the first of a lot that we'll be doing in the future. So that's it. Have a great afternoon, great evening, good night, and catch you guys in the future AMA. Thank you.